Welcome to Bay Rats and Buoys with your host, Captain Gage.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Bay Rats and Buoys. This is episode number 4, and we have special guest Captain Jacob in the house. Welcome, Jacob. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Gage. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Super excited. So just to give you a little background on me and Jacob, how we met training on a commercial towboat. So that's, we went out there to train to be commercial tow captains, and that was the day that I met you out there.
Yes, sir.
That was awesome. And so let's let people know a little bit about Captain Jacob and all the things that you do, because you're a lot more than just a captain. Let's give them a little bit of your background and how you got started and all that stuff. But give them a little bit of your background. I understand you have a military background as well.
I do, yeah. I'm currently in the Army Reserves. My name's Jacob Feibusch. I'm from Kings Park. I'm 25. Been on the water my whole life. Went to college out in Colorado. That's where I got involved with the military. Commissioned out of there. Been in the reserve since. Came back home. Didn't like being landlocked out there.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Got back to the East Coast as quick as I could. Been on the water every day.
Nice. Well, we appreciate your service. Thank you very much. And I know from working with you in the short time that I did work with you, that what attracted me the most to what you were doing and what I was doing was you were really into free diving. And you are also a spear fisherman, and the videos and the stories you told me, I was hooked, and that was it. I was like, I want to do that. That was incredible. So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a taste of what got you started into free diving and holding your breath for as long as you do to stay down there, and obviously then your fishing, your spear fishing is unbelievable.
Yeah, so I've been on the water, since before I could walk. My dad had me out there, hauling stripers, and we'd go fluking a lot when I was a little kid. And I always rod and real fish, do some fly fishing too, especially when the albies are in. But it was one summer, I got hot. It was the dog days. Bass were deep, kind of slow. I was out porgy fishing, and my buddy called me up, with a full stringer of fluke, striped bass, a couple sea bass. And I was like blown away where this guy went and what he did. And he was like, yeah, I was out diving today. I shot these fish with a harpoon gun. So right then and there, I knew I needed to get in on that. His name's Colin Bennett. Grew up with him, good friend of mine. We're diving the Blackfish tournament this weekend. So he took me out. He let me use some gear, and it became my favorite thing to do in the world. Became obsessed with it. Was in the water 6-7 days a week, towards the end of college and right when I graduated, and going all over the island, playing the wind, finding the clear water, and slinging some steel down there.
So what is your favorite spot on Long Island? Not to give away one of your hot spots, but where's your favorite spot to actually go spear fishing? Let's say Block Island or somewhere.
Yeah, I mean you can't beat Block, right? It's like the mecca of diving. The clear water there is 30-40 feet easy. I remember my first time there. I was floating on the surface by Southwest Ledge, in between Southwest Ledge and Black Rock, and I'm looking down. I'm like, oh, there's a school of bunker down there. Well, I was in like 60 feet of water. I could see the bottom, and I drop in on them. They were about 40-pound stripers. But since I was so high up above them, they looked tiny.
They looked like they were a small bunker.
Yeah, they did. But I'm a North Shore guy, growing up, zipping around Smithtown Bay and all throughout the Nesquag River. I like diving my home waters. So the South Shore inlets are phenomenal, but nothing beats blackfish season on the North Shore for me.
Right. So now that we're talking about spearfishing and blackfish at the same time, I mean, that's like the story behind them in the caves and the eye contact and the stuff that you told me is just, that's incredible. People wouldn't believe it. If you were down there, until you're down there and see it,
yeah, you
wouldn't believe it. So why don't you tell them what it's like when you get down there and go spearfishing for these tog and the blackfish?
Yeah, they're my favorite species to target. Being in their environment is very otherworldly. They're a highly intelligent fish species. I would say exuberantly more so than striped bass. Maybe it's because striped bass are such apex predators. They cruise around and they don't care. But I've had bass that will swim into the tip of your spear gun. Where blackfish really play the game. They kind of whack-a-mole in and out of their caves and holes, and you actually have to hunt them. I've seen some big fish one season that may have got away that 2-3 years later you're in the same spot and you see fish with distinct markings.
Sure.
And it's the same fish.
Right.
You gotta work for them. You gotta sometimes get your body half in a cave with a flashlight to really get in there and find them. And I think it's the pinnacle of Northeast spearfishing.
And I remember you telling me if you made eye contact with them, that's it. They were spooked and they were gone.
Absolutely. So the big ones will always come up around your shoulder, and it's like you could almost feel their presence when they're dropping in on you from the side. So you want to keep your eyes low, your head down, and you don't want to like look around for them. Or sudden movements are definitely a no-go. If you're moving around quickly or jittery, there's not going to be any big fish around. You're going to see fish 18 to 20 inches, nothing that's going to fill a cooler. So.
Right. And what was the biggest so far? What's the biggest one you've seen down there? I mean, I know you've seen some giants.
I've seen some big fish. The biggest fish I ever shot was 11 1/4. That was in Northport waters too.
Nice. Double digits in Northport. Love it.
Yeah, hell yeah. I've shot 3 double-digit fish in my life the past 3 years. I shot one in Cape Cod, one out on the East End, and one around here. So
sweet. And how about anything in Shinnecock? 'Cause I know the waters are moving there, but I know guys do spearfish over there.
Yeah, I've spent more time diving Mauritius Inlet.
Okay.
Shinnecock, you're not allowed to dive inside the jetty, so
yeah, I see the sign there.
Yeah,
I still saw the divers, so yeah, it's a good point, but they still do it. I still see them there.
Hey, sometimes on an incoming tide you can't avoid it, but Mauritius I've dove, frequently, especially with the beach pass. It's fun to drive down, and
right.
I think one summer I went like 13 trips. I shot 13 bass there. It was as automatic as it could get. It actually was kind of disheartening because you get excited, you drive all the way out east, you drive down the beach, you get in the water, and then first drift, you hit your striper, and it's like, now what do I do?
Right, you're right. It took you longer to drive there than it did to actually hunt the fish.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say that it's easy by any means. We're probably dropping 47 feet in the inlet with the highest tidal coefficient on Long Island when we are doing that. But
right, and not only are you battling with the tidal coefficient, but you got to worry about the slot size. And so I remember you telling me about the silhouettes that you have, because you got to study that silhouette so that when you get down there, you kind of have a good depth perception of what that size is. I was just talking to another spear fisherman that showed me his videos, and every bass that was in his video clip was 40 pounds. Yeah. And he goes, he's looking for the tiniest one in the bunch to shoot, and he's gonna hit the 35-inch fish, which is still over our slot limit. So it's.
Yeah, the slot limit's tough. Conservation first, though, right? Like that's the way things are going now. Hopefully we get to a point where that doesn't exist anymore because, there's stock numbers have rebounded. But it definitely makes it more challenging. Like you said, when I was diving and the slot limit first rolled out, I'd have silhouettes cut to 28 and 35 hanging up in the garage, my room. You see them enough, and then you start to realize you keep the notches marked on your gun, too. So, you take a peek at that a couple times a dive. You know what you're looking for. And if you're not sure, you're not pulling the trigger. Right.
You're not going to shoot something. You've seen some 60-pounders sitting on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, fish that are like broomtail train cars. Like these things, you see their shoulders, and then you just see lines. And it's like unfathomably long amount of time where this fish is passing by you. It's always on the dirtiest days, too, where you see big fish like that. Because when it's clear, I feel like they're wise enough to not go anywhere near you.
Right, they feel they're more vulnerable in the clear water, that they'd rather the murky water to go hunt.
I love diving the murky water because of that. You could really use it as like a shroud.
Well, it's good here because you don't have to worry about any sharks.
Yeah.
Murky water in Florida could be a whole different perspective of free diving.
I had a run-in in the Carolinas 2 years ago in the murk with a shark. Ripped a sheep's head right off the tip of my spear, probably arm's length off from my body.
See that all the time in the scuba diving videos.
Yeah.
You see it all the time.
Yeah, I didn't. I was holding the sheep's head there, pulling my float line in. I had my spear under my arm, and then just like a lot of tension, boom, boom in the front. And so I thought the fish just dove down and swam off the spear and went slack. Pulled the spear straight out and just half a sheep's head there. So I got the hell out of there.
You knew right away you weren't the only thing in the water looking to eat a sheep's head.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that happens. You see a lot of the videos online, guys reeling in fish, and the sharks just come up and totally annihilate it. I mean, it happens here on Long Island. It's not like it doesn't.
Yeah.
One summer I caught 53 sharks from the South Shore beaches, and I tagged them for NOAA, and, they pretty much every species you're catching is a prohibited shark. You shouldn't even have it out of the water. So, you learn as you did it. And then the rules and regulations did change as far as they didn't want to tag those sand tigers and the duskies and the browns. They didn't want to tag the prohibited sharks. So I had only done it for 1.5 summers, really. But it was epic. That was unbelievable, bringing in 9-foot fish onto the beach, not taking them onto the dry sand, keeping them. That was the hard part, is keeping them in the water. I would cut the hook out, so I was just cutting the barb, getting it out, so it wasn't trying to rip a hook out of a shark's mouth. I wasn't even dealing with that. I just cut it with bolt cutters, and the hook fell right out, and it was that easy to get rid of them.
Yeah, I remember you showing me some of those pictures, man. That's badass.
Yeah, and I got to say, it was more fun grabbing that fish by the tail and pulling him back into the deep water and walking him out. And at no time did you feel threatened that this shark wants to turn on you. He just wanted the hook out of his mouth. He was like, let me go. And once you got him back in the water, that was like the most majestic part of it. I think releasing it was more fun than catching it.
Yeah, I would say the day I learned the most about how to hunt fish underwater was the first time I ever dove with sharks. Just seeing the way that they move and kind of like their presence and the demeanor they put off, where all the movements are so slight and calculated. There's no wasted energy. And just how slow they really cruise around. If you could emulate that as a spear fisherman, you're going to kill a lot of fish.
Wow. Yeah, that's great advice for you guys out there that are into spear fishing, no doubt. Try to be a shark in the waters. Yeah. You'll do pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's spawned into so much more for you, and that's really why you're on the podcast. I mean, when you told me about the spear fishing and sitting in the, with the GoPro, and the footage is insane that I saw, and he's sitting in the water, holding his breath, and the striped bass are just circling him like he's not even there. And at that point, I was like, that is something that I want to do. Watching that was actually inspiring. That was something that I want to do. I bought the suit, I got everything, and now I just got to get in the water and do it with you. That's a whole nother beast. But that led to a whole nother world for you. That just opened up a door for you.
It did, yeah. It was, one of the best things that ever happened to me in hindsight, getting into free dive spearfishing. And
that led you to then becoming a captain. And so you decided to go get your captain's license. It was what, during COVID? It was when everybody's indoors and online?
Had the time to kill, so I got my 6-pack. I've since upgraded it to a 100-ton after the fact, but that's initially what drew me to it, other than just being on the water, working on the water. Wanted to further my on-the-water opportunities.
Right, so you got your captain's license, and then you grew into your business. You started your business from scratch, total scratch. Davy Jones Shellfish Company. So why don't we tell people how you started the Davy Jones Shellfish Company and what it is. But the interesting part about it was how you got the rights to do what you're doing and how you went about there's so many permits involved. It's not like just go fill out a form and you got it.
Yeah,
there was so many things involved. So why don't you tell them how you got started and what you're doing with it now?
Yeah, so in the wintertime I always scratched up clams just recreationally. Nothing to do, no fish around. Figured why not. So there's one winter where I was clamming a lot. I was giving away a lot of clams, and I was like, well, I might as well go get my shellfish ticket, make a couple bucks, figure sell a couple dozen clams. It is what it is, Didn't think anything of it. I was working on some other commercial boats at the time, all throughout the summer. Learned a lot there. Some local captains here in Northport Harbor, and got my shellfish license. I was scratching up clams. I got a clam rake for Christmas when I was a teenager, and that was really it. Didn't think anything of it, but there was one day I was out trying to shoot some stripers in the Sound, and I dropped down on an oyster bed, probably, no joke, like the size of a football field. So for the next 2 years or so, I harvested oysters out of there, and one thing led to another, and now I'm farming 10 acres of Peconic Bay.
10 acres of oyster farm in the Peconic Bay, and I know it was when we first met on the commercial towboat that even Captain Mike got involved in the beginning with you, and he dove with you and helped you anchor these things down. I saw the whole beginning of this thing from, before it was anything, and now it's 10 acres.
Yep. And,
give me an idea of when you started, how small it was and how big it is. How did it grow to 10 acres? Because it didn't open up. It wasn't 10 acres, or was that the land that you acquired?
So I'm permitted for 10 acres of operation. That's where the corner buoys are set. They're 660 feet apart from each other, each direction. Right now, I'm actually probably only using half of that.
Right.
And then
so there's plenty of room to grow.
Plenty of room to grow, yeah. And then who knows? Maybe I'll get another 10 more. Or, possibilities out there for a couple different options.
And from seed to table, what is it? How long does it take for you to grow an oyster? And give everybody an idea of what the process is, because you got these seeds in a bucket now. What do you got to do with them, and how do you take care of them? And
yeah, so we buy seed from a hatchery, right? So the hatchery is breeding these oysters. You take your brood stock of individual organisms that express genetic traits that you want to emulate on your farm, favorable, maybe they're disease resistant, deep cups, nice shells, whatever it may be. You put them in a holding tank and you play with the temperature. You drop it down to emulate winter, you raise it up to emulate the spring spawn, sperm and eggs released in the water column, sets on the surface, it floats at that point. After conception and a couple phases of mitosis, it sinks down to the bottom where that set happens. So it sets on like fine microscopic pieces of sand or ground porcelain, whatever the hatchery uses. I don't work in a hatchery. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but that's pretty much what it is. And then from there they're grown in like bottles. They go into upwellers and then they're sold to farmers like myself. So when we get them, they can vary in size. I get some stuff like that's only 2 millimeters, some stuff the size of my pinky, and it goes in mesh bags out on the farm to retain them.
Right, those are the black cages that I see that are on your boat.
Yeah. So the bags slide into cages. My cages hold like 6-8 bags each.
And how many cages are there?
Right now around 300.
Wow, I mean that's incredible. And I know you do this 7 days a week. So guys, there's a reason Captain Jacob is the first guest on Bay Rats and Buoys, because the true definition of a Bay Rat is somebody that's on the water 7 days a week like myself, and give them a perspective. I mean, like you said, you go to sleep, you close your eyes, you're seeing oysters.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it is an all-encompassing obsession in my life where I don't know if it's good or bad, but
it's good.
All I think about is the farm and growing the business and growing oysters. I'd like to think about shooting blackfish a little bit more, especially this time of year. But
you're going to get to reap those rewards, especially with your entrepreneurial spirit to go start this company from scratch, grow a 10-acre oyster farm, and do it at the level that you're doing it at. Because I understand that it's grown tremendously, even from you started this 3 years ago. You started basically when I started Sand City Charter, and that was 3 years ago. And you have doubled, and then I understand almost tripled in size since you started.
Yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenal community, the aquaculture community here on Long Island. I have plenty of mentors that have helped and guided me along the way, passed on knowledge just out of the goodness of their hearts. I do feel like I did come in with a baseline knowledge of the commercial fishing industry and being on the water, and that is an asset. But as far as farming operations and husbandry practices for the livestock, trial and error, picking people's brains, doing a lot of research. And those early days when I was diving for oysters, I feel like conditioned me now as a farmer, where when you're out there, I started in a 10-foot rowboat. So, as much as I'm looking for the oysters every day, what I was really looking for was the conditions that would be conducive to oyster beds. So, bottom type, specific areas, current flow. That's the stuff you're really honing in on and looking for. And it gave me this baseline knowledge now that you could see an oyster and you could tell what it needs to grow a certain way, size, shape, healthier. And that's something that was ingrained in me when I was free diving for wild caught product.
And how are the conditions out there in the Peconic? I mean, you got a really good spot, obviously.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the East End's beautiful. Long Island's, we're so fortunate to live here and farm our product here. It's a world-class product. I love where my farm is. I did extensive research out there under the water, looking at bottom type, measuring tidal speed, salinity, all sorts of stuff like that before I did pick my spot with Suffolk County. But yeah, I like my spot a lot. I'm west of Robbins Island. There's a couple other farms over there, and it's been going well. I mean, we take our lumps some days. It gets windy out there.
Sure.
Not much protection and cover for me, but it does lead to a nice product.
I know there was one day that Captain Mike was going to dive with you, and, he's 40-something. He's a young 40, and he was like, there ain't no way I'm going in that water today. It ain't happening, kid.
Yeah, I was trying to.
You were trying to coax him in. You almost killed Captain Mike. So, it's stuff like that really is. So now you just said that it's world-class. You guys are doing it at a world-class level here on Long Island. Now, something that I don't think the people understand is it takes you almost 2 years to, grow an oyster from seed to table for somebody to eat it, and you do sell to the public. But give them a perspective of, how healthy it is and why it is world-class.
Well, the world-class aspect of it comes from just the quality of the product, how deep, I keep saying deep cups. That's like the standard for oyster shape. That's going to be conducive to largest meat yields. We have a product that tastes great. I mean, you put it side by side with any oyster in the world in a blind taste test. People usually pick the Long Island oyster.
Right, but there's no pesticide. There's no any chemicals or anything. It's a pure organic product.
Yeah, absolutely. The health benefits are numerous. I mean, I think if you ate like 2 of them, you're getting your daily zinc requirements. It's the cheapest form of protein cultivation on the planet. There's no additives at all. There's no additives, no pesticides, fertilizers, anything like that. Everything that the oyster needs and comes in contact with is, being brought to it by the current of the bay, the water that it's in.
Right, and that's incredible all in itself. Just having those conditions here to do that and where you do it and what you do is kind of incredible. I'm sure everybody thinks that. And I know since this inception of Davy Jones Shellfish Company, me and Mike have followed along, and even Mike's dove in the water. He's helped you, so I've heard all the stories, the trials and tribulations. What would you say is like one of your hardest days? Like, give people an idea of, when you wake up in the morning, you got to get out there and do this. It almost doesn't matter what the conditions are. You're going out.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you got to be smart too, right? You're not trying to kill yourself out there.
Right.
But when you work on the water every day, what you would consider being smart probably isn't what a layman who has a recreational boat and a slip would consider being smart. So.
Right. We go out when it's still blowing 30. If it's blowing, we're going. 50's another, 50's a whole nother level. But, hey, you got to get stuff done. You got to get it done.
But, you wake up early. You drive out there. I still, unfortunately, live over an hour from my farm, so I'm tearing the tar off the LIE.
Right. Kings Park to the Peconic is, it's not right around the corner.
Yeah, trying to get on the boat as fast as I can. Get out there, you go out, and if it's blowing, it's not as fun. I did build a floating barn this year that I do all my processing and sorting in now. My color rack's in there, my tumbler, which really helps a lot because not only am I in the harbor, I'm not out on the open bay. It's enclosed. It's fully enclosed. It's no wind, no rain, no snow. So,
right. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a tremendous asset for me.
Incredible. And I understand you're also involved. You said the bay. And we know you're a bay rat. That's why you're here. But you're also, now they have bay constables and they have harbor masters. And I understand you're working a couple days a week. What do you do as far as harbor master is concerned?
Yeah, I'm a part-time harbor master over with the town of Brookhaven. To my knowledge, there are no longer bay constables. There's
They changed it. Yeah, they got rid of that name here as well in Huntington. So
yeah,
there's
I think that was statewide.
Okay, statewide. There you go.
But yeah, I work out there part-time, whatever maybe that we're doing that day, buoy maintenance, navigational aids, responding to calls, shell fishing and fisheries enforcement, stuff of that nature, which has been, rewarding. Right.
Sure. That's an unbelievable, 25 years old to be a harbor master. Are you going to grow into that and do it a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely.
Good.
I'll be there until they tell me not
until
to
they
be,
tell you you're not allowed to be there, until you're 72 years old and they tell you got to retire. Now, that wasn't to get off track, but how do you sell? Like when you grow these oysters from little seeds and they're ready to go to my table, I know that you sell them to restaurants and you also sell them to the public. So how could the public or how could the retail people get a hold of these oysters from the Peconic Bay? Because trust me, you're going to want to get some.
Yeah, so I predominantly the business is restaurant direct. I have 2-3 dozen restaurants I deliver to weekly, locally.
Okay.
I also ship retail orders, and then I sell to some wholesalers. As the volume on the farm increases, so will the sales avenues. I do a lot of retail events like farmers markets, shucket weddings, baby showers, whatever it may be.
Right. And let's give the people some access to your social media so that, do you have a website for them to go to buy the stuff, or how would they contact you?
Yeah, it's just Davy Jones Shellfish Co. If you plug that right in Google, it should pop right up. Social media, Davy Jones Shellfish Co. Instagram, Facebook. Fairly active on Instagram. Try to stay up on it. I know a lot of people of my generation. I feel, unfortunately, like that's the primary source where some people get their news from. So it would behoove me to not stay updated on social media.
So if you want real Davy Jones Shellfish Co. news, you got to follow him on all his social media feeds. But you just heard it, that the Instagram is probably the most updated feed on all. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. And you can probably get him on Facebook, but you'll be able to get all of his information in the comments in the video here on YouTube for the Bay Rats and Buoys. And, I mean, look at this. I mean, we did perfect timing. I mean, we got the sun going down. We're sitting in Huntington Harbor. It doesn't get better than this, but it's blowing. Let's tell the people, it's blowing 12 right now.
Today.
It's, it's gusting in the 20s, and we feel the wind. We feel it. And we have to actually change direction today to face the sun. And interesting setup today, a lot of fun. I'm glad Jacob got to. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, because God only knows. I mean, what time in the morning do you get up and get out on the boat? What time do you leave?
I'm usually leaving the house around 3:45.
3:45 in the morning, and you're on the boat, but you're actually there before. You're out there in the dark.
Yeah. Especially if it's a busy day. Try to beat the sun. And kind of sucks this time of year because we're losing daylight, but.
Yeah, it's 7 a.m. sunrise and 6 p.m. sunset, so it's a much quicker day for us here as the fall is in full effect. And the fall run, the water temperature, I tell you, I touched that water today, and I was like, wow. Yep. It's 58 degrees back here sometimes. 64 on doing my fishing reports a couple of days ago. But back here, that water temp, you'd think it's shallower water, it'd be warmer, but it's not. It's 58, 59 back here sometimes.
Yeah, it dropped 7 degrees in 11 days last week, I believe.
Yeah. It was real drastic. It went from, almost 70 degrees. It was like 69 degrees, and it dropped down.
Yeah.
And this time of the year, so we're going to get the squid in here in the harbor soon, so that's going to be exciting. Hopefully they pop in. See all the squid guys putting their lights down, and that attracts the bass. I throw the GoPros down. I put them down here in the harbor. I put them down all over the place where we fish. You got to see these bass and the togs swimming together, and it's nothing like your spearfishing videos. Trust me, mine's a milk crate down there, not a human being with a spear gun. So
we got to get you out diving.
I am definitely going to get out there diving. That is not only on my bucket list. I've already got everything I need to go. I just got to get out there and do it. Unfortunately, I don't know how long I'm going to hold my breath, so I do have a mask and a small tank that I could stay down for at least 5 minutes.
Wow, really? That's crazy.
I just hope that my bubbles don't scare anything away. Hopefully, I won't make too many bubbles. I know that's going to be, So the other spear fisherman here said he had to put his head in the sand for like 30 seconds so that the fish would not even know he's there.
Yeah.
He said if you act like a predator,
they know you're a predator.
They become prey and they leave. And if you don't act like a predator.
Yeah, there's two real baseline things that you have to do if you want to shoot something, and that's be slower and be smaller. And you're not going to be smaller around here, at least for the most part. So you really need to move slow, and all your moves need to have purpose. Also, wasted motion down there is using oxygen. So
right. And what I love about this time of the year is the gin clear water. I mean, you could see down now. It's unbelievable. People walk down the marina. Everybody's looking down the dock. They're ready to fall in and texting on their phone. They don't realize they're looking how clear the water is, and they don't realize they're about to text and swim, which is pretty funny, which just happened to one of the guys on the fuel dock. He was tying up a boat, and he took a few steps too far back, and he ran out of runway, and he had to go home and dry off with towels in 60-degree water here in the harbor. He fell right off the fuel dock.
Yeah, that'll wake you up.
So that'll wake you up. It's a little chilly this time of the year, but again, check out the Davy Jones Shellfish Co. And we'll say Co because that's C-O for company for those of you that don't know. And type that in on social media. I'll put all the links down below in the description. And what size shirt are you?
Large.
You're a large. All right, I got to give you a Sand City shirt.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. So one of the guys here in the marina, actually the Rapala right behind us, George, he actually made these for me. Nice. He gave me a whole box of them, and I got to thank George and Teddy. I was just out there black fishing with Teddy. We went out on a wicked day out there. It was 6-foot swells in the bay. It was rolling 5 and 6 footers. And so here we're going to give Jacob a Sand City shirt. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Gage.
Thanks, we appreciate it. Are you kidding me, man? Unbelievable. I hope you guys got to enjoy it because there's not too many kids. And I say kids because he's 25 years old and I'm double his age. But he's far from a kid. He's a young man with an entrepreneurial spirit, and he is killing it out in the Peconic Bay. And I'm super proud to be friends with him. And what he's accomplished is really great. And as far as a captain, I mean, he's taken it to a whole nother level, like you heard. Started out with a 6-pack. Now he's got a 100-ton master gross license. And, I mean, you're just killing it.
Thanks, Gage.
It's unbelievable.
I appreciate it. I love the show. I've listened to all the episodes, and I love the content online every day. So
I greatly appreciate it. And, we've been getting a lot of great positive feedback, guys. Wherever I go, and I pull to the fuel dock, even just driving around in town or pulling up to people on the boats, they're coming over and they're saying, hey, great job on the podcast. So it is getting some positive feedback, and that's really good. We are going to grow this throughout the winter time because in a few months, guys like me and Jacob are not going to be able to sit on the boat. So we'll be in the studio doing it in the winter time, which we won't have to worry about the sunlight going down. We won't have to worry about the wind. So it'll make it a lot easier for production and scheduling people to come in, which is very hard to do. You know, when you got a captain that's working 7 days a week and a guy like me that's captaining on a boat 7 days a week, it's hard to make that time to get a couple hours in. But when we're in the studio, I could do these things at, 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock in the evening time, after work hours. But when you're working with the sunlight out here and trying to do it organically like we are on the boat in the middle of the harbor, there's nothing better. So appreciate you guys for tuning in each and every week. We are going to grow Bay Rats and Buoys together. We love the audience we have so far. Everything is going great. And wishing everybody bent rods, tight lines. And I'll see you guys out on the water.
Over and out. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. Be sure to visit sandcitycharter.com. and follow Captain Gage on all our social media channels.